Call the roll.
Counselor Kennedy?
Here.
Counselor Rourke?
Here.
Counselor Samaras?
Here.
3 present.
Okay, thank you. Just to review, we met on this many weeks ago. We haven't met since that time, and the reason that we're meeting is to, when the reappointment for the city clerk came up, that was adopted unanimously, so he was reappointed, and we also determined that at that time we should review his current salary. Currently, the city clerk is at the top step of his grade, and what he's requesting is that he be put into a different grade at a different step. So that's kind of a review of where we are, and with that, I'll just open it up to the members.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. In regard to going to the next grid, is this a practice that's a normal practice when someone attains the last step on any grid?
Yeah, it's the only way in order to increase, because as the ordinance stands now, that if you're on that step 7, you can't go anywhere after that. So if I were to be here 20 years, I'd be at that step 7, but I need action because I'm a employee of the council. I need the activity of the council. And the last time we were here, Councilor Samaras, was a question of some information that the board wanted, and in a packet I provided to you on Friday, and the council packet went out, and I have it on your desk here today. Kind of indicates where other communities are at, and also where other department heads are on the grid. And to summarize quickly, I took a quick survey, and by calling each of the clerks in the top populated communities in the Commonwealth, I excluded Boston for the simple reason that their population far exceeds any other population in the Commonwealth. And I also excluded anybody that ran elections out of their office. As you're aware, the clerk does not run elections out of the city of Lowell. There's an election commission that does that, as there are in other municipalities. And based on the rest of that, and the remaining job descriptions of the city clerks are pretty similar, municipal clerks, because they're really governed by Mass General laws. So the really thing that differentiates a lot of the clerks is whether they house the elections or don't. Based on that, in the average that I took for the surrounding towns with similar populations was $180,000. My request is far below that to you before. I understanding the community and where we are here. Also, as part of the information I provided to you, there are department heads that are housed exactly where I'm asking to be housed. The vast majority are housed on the middle tier 2, some are in tier 1. Others are at the other end of tier 2. My request just comes to house me in the middle of tier 2, moving up in the natural course of things. I haven't been able to do that the past 3 years, and it's a request that I'm making to this board, as I made a month or so ago. And again, you wanted the information. I provided that information for you, and I think it's consistent with the community. I think it's consistent with what's happening in this building today, and I just request that we move forward on that.
No, your report was a well-defined report. It was a good report. The issue that I'm having right now at this particular time, to thinking about this issue, is where we are with the current budget. City manager hasn't projected any pay raise for any employees in the next fiscal budget at this particular point. And I'm just concerned with, in a sense, taking care of our administration first before we take care of we'll say rank and file at this particular point. But with that being said, you do work for the city council, and your work is valued. So I'm conflicted at this particular point.
There was recently some movement with steps for non-council employees. There were some step movements during this past fiscal year as well. So I just give you that information.
You received your COLAs during the past 3 years, as far as
when they gave, I think it was 2 out of the 3 that it allowed.
The cost of living. Did you miss any other raises at that particular time? That
just the step movements.
There
were a couple step movements towards the time as well.
Okay, but did you receive any raises that they got beside the cost of living? I'm not aware.
No.
Okay. I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, Council Milonazo and Council Belanger are also here. Do you want to weigh in on this, or?
Again, I
Councilman
am
Milazzo.
here obviously to listen to what the subcommittee decides, but I do still, I do value the work of the clerk, and I think that over the past 3 years where he did receive the COLA 2 out of 3 times, but he's now really at the top of the step. So I would hope that this subcommittee would recommend to the council that we move the position to another step or grade, if you will, and then work on the actual salary. I know that there's been some numbers that have been talked about, or steps and grades that have been talked about, and I do think that based upon the good job that the clerk has done, in my opinion, that he deserves a change in step and grade. So that, again, I look forward to listening to the subcommittee, but that would be my position.
Okay, thank you, Council Milonazo. Council Belanger, do you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to the clerk, I do want to echo Council Milonazo's comments. I mean, I don't think anybody's questioned your quality of work. Mr. Clerk, you've done an outstanding job. There's no arguing that point. But your goal here today is to, if I may, get along lines of the other department heads throughout the city,
That's partly, yes.
along their step. Okay, now, for clarity, because this is as a freshman counselor, it's my first time having to deal with something like this, and for the people at home, can you briefly explain, Mr. Clerk, that the step process, where you're at, what level you're at, and what other department heads are at? Just for clarity, if you
Yes,
wouldn't mind.
currently I'm at level 3, step 7. That's the last step on that level. My review of the ordinance personnel is that the vast majority are housed at either 2, 6, 2, 7. A few more are up at level 1, an extra level 1. My request, based on, that situation, as well as, the average salary of clerks in my similar position throughout the Commonwealth, is $108,000, based on my conversations directly with the clerks of those different Commonwealths, and the criteria that we use as far as the job descriptions are the same throughout. Again, the average there is $108,000. I'd request, coming off that prior thing in terms of, where I can be comfortable with and where I think, there should be an entitlement, would be that step 4, which is, I think, $94,620, which is level 2, step 4. And that's what I'd request. My revenue in my department really is leveled out. It's kind of level balanced. What we bring in is basically runs my operation. So even with that increase, that would still be the same situation.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Clerk. And so you have been getting a cost of living raise 2 out of the last 3 years to the tune of 2.5%, correct?
Yeah, I believe that is with other personnel, all the
Correct.
personnel's been
I agree.
grabbing that.
I agree. Now, okay, your goal here is to the next step, if you will, is 94,620 per year, 94,000?
That's the next level, step 4.
Okay. And what level are you at now, Mr. Clerk? And
Level 3, step 7.
and that's 87,
87.
87, okay. Okay, so that's, without, crunching numbers here, that's another 6 to 7%, I'm gonna estimate at this point, doing a quick number in my head, on top of, the 2 out of 3 is the cost of living. I understand, it's across the board, everyone gets that. But, this is, needs to be about fairness, both to you and other department heads across the city. So I do want to hear some more input from the board members.
Council, there has been movement with that from other department heads for that to different step levels throughout those
Yes.
2 years, and I haven't had any.
I understand that.
There was 3 that I had missed.
And I understand that's entirely up to the council, correct? In your position. Now,
No, it couldn't have been up to the council. Well, to get me up to the next level, I'd have to go to the council.
Okay.
But I couldn't because.
is this the same level that when you signed on, Mr. Clerk? Is this the same level you're
Same
at?
level, yeah.
Same level, okay. Okay, well, I value your work very much, Mr. Clerk, but that's kind of a high percentage. You know, I look at it as I have to justify pay raises to the taxpayers. And as much as we value your work, I still feel you're not probably where you should be at the same time. But that is fairly significant, and one that might be a little difficult to justify, because we answer to the taxpayers. And I don't know, is there anything in between that to you, Mr. Chairman? Is there another?
Well, sure, I don't know if you have the grid in front of you, but basically what the clerk is asking for is that he be moved from grade 3, step 7.
Yep.
To grade 2, step 4. So what's also available is step 3, step 2, and step 1.
Okay, well, you know, I think seeing the other departments head where the steps are mostly 1s and 2s, if you will, you know, the clerk, by all means, should be around, should be with them. But it is significant, once again. I don't want to be repetitive, but I want to see what the other what the committee members have to say, along with the councilors, and I'll come up with a decision. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council Belanger. Council Milonazo.
Yes, thank you. Just to follow up on my comments earlier, it's my understanding when we started talking about this as a full council with the clerk, he had proposed to us step 2, I believe it was grade 6, around $99,837. So over the past month, he has rethought his position, as I understand it, and has come down to step 2, grade 4. If I have that backwards, grade 2, step 4. So I think, again, picking up on what Councilor Belanger said relative to the fairness of these discussions, I think that the clerk is meeting us halfway based upon where this whole discussion started. So again, look for input from the subcommittee, but based upon his tenure as city clerk and based upon where the other department heads are, I think that the 2-4 seems reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clerk, when were you appointed?
I was appointed 4 years ago.
4 years ago. And the same salary you made back then you're making today?
Yes, except there was some COLA increases.
Just quick, yeah. And looking at the report and some of the other department heads' salaries, you know, most of them are much higher than yours. Some of them much higher. You know, I think the $94,000 is a reasonable request. And at that point in time, also you'd be eligible for further steps down the line. I wouldn't have a problem, you know, despite with Mr. Chairman what we voted on today, but I wouldn't have a problem going to 94 and then going 2 steps after that. So thank you.
And just a note, I think the, you know, communities that surround similarly situated communities in Lowell, some of them differ because Lowell has a birthing hospital, so our vital records are almost triple some of the towns that are indicated in the report. So I mean that's the element of work. It's again the same job descriptions because it's kind of a lot governed by Mass General laws, and there are some of the other clerks that I've spoken to. There are stipends they get because some of them have a law degree. Stipends they get for sitting on the council, being the clerk of the council, and again, I would just look for the straight issue on that.
I guess I'd be my next question to interrupt. You know, having the law degree and the experience in the background, have you looked into what other clerks, you know, how many of those do have law degrees?
I know of 2 other ones. The one is in Woburn. Again, he gets I think it was a $4,000 stipend he has because he has a JD. In addition, he would get an additional $3,500 because he clerks the subcommittee, the council as well.
And Lowell has none of those in effect? Stipends?
No.
No. Okay. If it went to 94, based on the research you've done with other clerks in the surrounding areas, would that still put you on the low end of the scale?
It would.
Would there be anybody higher than you?
It would. The average salary for similarly situated clerks is $108,000 in the Commonwealth.
I do see the Cambridge one at 137, it's like probably
Cambridge
wax
is,
it up a little bit.
even
Right.
if you take, Cambridge is kind of like an enigma a little
Right.
bit, I guess, but if you drop that high one and you drop the low one, I think it's like Fall River, it still averages out to about $103,000.
Which is 10 grand less than what you're, 10 grand more than what you're asking
Yeah.
for. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. No, as Council Belanger said, we're both new at this. The issue that I have is if you're going to go into another grid, is there a review of the job description to qualify that? And the other issue is going into the next grid, even the first step it's just several $100s more, but it's more. And it puts you into a better place. Based on your work ethic and your work record here, I mean, I could, if I could, I'd say Cambridge is where we should be. I mean, but that's an anomaly. But at the same time, I'm really, having a great deal of difficulty dealing with a raise that would be approximately about $7,000 more than you're making at this particular point.
And again, I understand that your concern, Counselor, it's probably about, I think, a 7% raise, but, my thought too as well is in terms of, affecting the budget is that our revenue in our department really covers what it costs to run that department for us. We bring in about the same amount, if not a little bit more, to what it costs to run the department.
Yeah,
But I think that's,
I understand that, but you understand, I'm just looking at, the entire picture and trying to, grasp where we are at this particular point. And it's, there is never a good time for, to give a raise or not give a raise. I mean, there's a, hopefully down the road, we're gonna see Lowell as such a city with such a bustling business and improved tax rate that we could afford these. But I'm just not sure where we're at this particular point without, we'll say, doing a reevaluation of your job description to make sure that we're in line with, that type of raise. I have difficulty with the 94,000 at this point.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I would think as the city manager and the auditor are involved, their job is reviewed every week. They do work for us, and I can't think of anybody that's had a problem with the clerk, since well before my time on the council. Mr. Clerk, could you do the average of what the department heads make in the city?
I don't have that average. I just kind of gave you a list of, checked off what they are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If there's nothing else, I would just like to say this. I think that everybody on the city council thinks that the city clerk has done a good job over the years and that he also is very qualified for the position. I think that what the subcommittee is considering recommending this evening is really a corrective action so that we have a city clerk that hasn't had a step raise in 4 years. And if you take a look at where he fits into the pecking order for city clerks in other cities around the Commonwealth, he's well below that. And even with this increase, he'll still be well below that. And I think that also when you look at where he stands amidst other department heads that would hold similar positions to his, that he's below them as well. So I think that, this is, part of this, I guess, is on merit because the clerk has done a good job, but a lot of this is really corrective action because this salary in this position, the salary for this position has fallen behind where it should be in the scope of things. And I think that, just once again, not to repeat myself, it's behind itself in the scope of things when you look at other city clerks around the Commonwealth and when you look at the department heads and what they're being paid for, what they're getting paid here at City Hall right now. And so given that, I would move to recommend to the City Council that the city clerk's salary be changed from step 7 in grade 3 to step 4 in grade 2.
Second.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
I accept the motion, but the thing is, I'm looking at best, I was looking at grade 2. If grade 3 were to be considered, I think that is definitely within the merits of an adjustment. But the motion's been filed, so.
Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, a couple questions. Now, hypothetically speaking, the 94, it gets voted and passed by the council, what is the time frame is this good for? For the remaining of his contract, or is this until he comes forward and requests another one, or how, is there a time frame, so to speak, or?
My understanding is that this would probably go into effect for the new budget for July 1.
Okay,
The clerk doesn't have a contract, he has an appointment, that's a 3-year appointment.
reappointment.
But if we do, if the council approves this recommendation, there are step increases built into this grade that would allow for him to get increases on an annual basis.
And that would just go along with other department heads in terms of, I wouldn't make any special request of the body. I'd just go along with what the other department heads are getting.
Okay, understood. And in closing, that, you know, I believe strongly Mr. Gary is owed something. I believe that. Now, the question is, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Samaras, what is the next tier? What level is was he referring to that? Was it that instead of the 94, what is Mr.?
I think that what Councilor I don't want to speak for Councilor Samaras, but I'll attempt to. I think that what Councilor Samaras is suggesting is that that we move the city clerk's salary to a different grade, but at a lower step than the motion that's before the subcommittee right now.
And that would be 92, I believe, and
That step 3 would be there.
And I was looking at
Yeah.
step 2, which was 89,681. But after listening to Councilor Milonazo, I mean, I understand, the thing is, this is very difficult, because the thing is, as we're stating, Mr. Gary, I mean, your work is valued, and here I am saying, at this particular point, I can't. But I mean, when I look at the total budget, I look at where we're at, I mean, I have a great deal of difficulty with this at this particular point in time. And the thing is, you've put yourself into the middle of that grade. I mean, for my likes, just going from one grade to another is significant, because it puts you in for, we'll say, 7 further step increases. But I'm willing to concede at this particular point, based on what I've heard from the other councilors, that, you know, I could accept with no problem the 89, but I have to be talked into the 92, the step 3. If that makes sense, where I'm at.
Well, let me just point out that this would be, if this motion passes, would be a recommendation from this subcommittee that would then go to the full council, and when it goes to the full council, certainly, you know, everything can be discussed again.
okay.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? Let's have a roll call, I guess, please.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Rourke?
Yes.
Counselor Samaras?
As it stands, no.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn. Second the motion.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed? Subcommittee stands adjourned.